So as you guys know from my previous video, I joined the Air Force when I was 17 while I was still in high school. And even though I knew I eventually wanted to become a nurse, I didn't want to do the exact same job in the military that I planned to do in my civilian career. So later I did become a nurse, registered nurse, at 21 years old with my ADN, and I eventually earned my BSN by 23 years old. But when it came to choosing my AFSC, I want to still be in like the medical realm, just not directly in patient care. And that's where medical logistics came in. When I sat down with the recruiter, I explained to him how I wanted to be connected in the medical realm, just not directly in patient care or a flight nurse or a military nurse. I didn't want any of that. So he gave the description of 41, aka medical logistics. And once I heard that, I was like, sign me up, sign the dotted line. This is what I want behind the scenes. And we'll get into more details about that. With all that being said, let's get into what medical logistics actually is. And yes, I did write down some things because I didn't want to forget anything. I will be reading because, yeah, it's important. So listen up. So medical logistics, or 41, is all about making sure medical missions run smoothly by providing supplies, equipment, and resources that doctors and nurses and medics rely on. So think of us as, the supply chain behind healthcare in the Air Force. So what this career field requires, you need a security clearance. So your background does matter, and I think your finances as well. So as for tech school, you're at Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, Texas, and usually lasts around 2 months if you pass. 2 months. And that's where you'll learn the basics of ordering systems, warehousing, inventory management, and how medical supplies move through the Air Force system. The main system you'll be trained on is called DMLSS, and that stands for Defense Medical Logistics Standard Support. It's a long word, which is a standard platform for ordering, tracking, and managing medical supplies across the whole Air Force. Now, granted, if you're with the A squadron like I was, you do not use DMLSS. We literally used an Excel spreadsheet to order our stuff, and then we submitted it to said person that they designated us to, and they ordered the stuff for us. And I think the people that we ordered our stuff from were active duty medical logistics, and they just had to supply our order. So you might be doing that. That was just for my AE squadron. When you first arrive at Fort Sam Houston, your first months are spent like mixed in the classroom environment with both Air Force and Army students, and that's a treat in itself. But it's like that because the curriculum, I cannot say that word, curriculum is already joint at the start. So during this month, you'll cover like foundational topics like basic supply procedures, inventory management, and military standards for medical logistics. And in the final months of tech school, you transition into Air Force only classes because the remaining material focuses on Air Force specific systems and protocols that you won't usually use in the Army. So they don't need to learn all this stuff. Flush that noise. And then also this includes in-depth training on demos, advanced supply procedures, and Air Force medical readiness requirements. And then throughout tech school, you also complete additional trainings and requirements, including, but not limited to, Camp Bolus field training, which is basically like your hands-on exercise, teaching you how to manage medical logistics in a deployment setting. So like you'll build tents, you'll do like litter trainings and all that fun stuff in the heat. And you also have uniform inspections and military customs, which is just like maintaining your standards in the dorms. And they'll go over that. And then you also have, of course, your exams and your practical assessments, which is basically testing both your supply knowledge and hands-on skills with equipment and systems. Like some equipment is probably like forklift training. I don't know, I don't know what it's called. I'll put a picture. And then for test school schedules, it's typically Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, with occasional extra time for labs, exams, and mandatory activities. So by the time you graduate, you'll be prepared for medical logistics in the Air Force. Not if you're AE, because let me tell you, I didn't have a good understanding like I thought I did what an AE unit was. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna work for demos and I'm gonna be in a warehouse and da da da. I get to my unit and I'm like, where's the warehouse? And they're like, this is it. This it's just like a bunch of Inflight kits on a litter. I think I don't have a picture of our actual one, but I could probably find a picture to kind of help you gauge what it's like, at least at my unit. And baby, it's not the same because we order our stuff through an Excel sheet, not demos, and we submit it to an email to the lead person of another active duty base unit area, and they supply our order. It's a whole thing. It's confusing. Yeah. So day-to-day life as a medical loggie can vary depending on where you're stationed. And a lot of people think it's just sitting at a desk and just typing your little fingers away, but no. It's a mix of desk work and physical tasks. So you'll be handling orders, tracking inventory, and processing requests from hospital staff. But you'll also be on your feet moving supplies, checking deliveries, and helping manage warehouse stock. And not all the time when you have AC. It's going to be hard work. So think hard before you do this job. So there's a physical side of the job where you'll be moving boxes, setting up storage areas, and handling equipment deliveries from like FedEx, UPS, stuff like that. It's not crazy heavy labor, but it's more active than people think. And let me tell you, some of those boxes are heavy. Sometimes it's hot. You don't have good working conditions all the time. It's a lot. While we're on the topic of working conditions look a little different depending on whether you're at an AE reserve unit or an active duty hospital. So, at an active duty hospital, medical logistics supports like 24/7 operations. So, shifts can include like night shifts, weekends, holidays, versus at an AE unit, it's more structured and focused on training and readiness. So, the pace is a lot slower until you mobilize for real work missions. So, within medical logistics, there are three main job categories that I'll go over. Let's just start with one. So, one, acquisitions slash ordering. So, that's the process of purchasing and making sure items are sourced. Then you have warehouse slash receiving, and that's basically managing your deliveries, organizing stock, and keeping records. And then lastly, you have customer service, which is working directly with the medical staff to meet their supply needs. And then another key difference between reserve and active duty is the systems that you'll use. So on active duty, you'll most always use demos for your supply chain tasks since there's a standard system across the Air Force. But in an AE reserves unit, like I said before, it's often more simplified. It's a lot of ordering through like Excel spreadsheets, email requests, and especially for larger items, you have to request those in a separate email. So for AE units, the day-to-day work often includes managing in-flight kits, which are medical supply kits prepared for air medical evacuation missions. And this includes checking and restocking supplies in those kits, ensuring medications and equipment are properly packaged and functional in the kits as well. And then you'll also be coordinating with flight crews to make sure the kits are mission ready. For AE, we had something called EMC, and that just helped track where the kits are available for rapid deployment, or aka mission ready. And then in some locations, military members can also work and partner with civilian facilities while staying in their AFSC. So, for example, during my annual tours, I would go to the CSDC, which stands for Civilian Support Detachment Center, where loggies can apply their skills in a civilian hospital environment. With all that being said, I kind of want to get into reserve versus active duty. So, one of the biggest differences is deployments. So, in an AE reserve unit, deployments are mandatory every 6 years, and sometimes there's volunteer TDYs, especially for flyers. But as a loggie, when you deploy, whether it's in the reserves or active duty, you're often the only 4A1 there. So that means that you have to know your job inside and out because you're the sole person handling the medical logistics for the missions. So you won't be completely alone since there's other AFSCs there when you deploy, but you are the go-to logistics expert, if that makes sense. So deployment conditions can vary. Sometimes you'll be in a warehouse on a large base. Other times you'll be working in a tent setup, which is why you have to learn that in Camp Bullets, and more like dry weather, like Kuwait. Either way, it's critical because the success of the medical mission depends on having the right supplies in the right place at the right time. So I do want to give you guys a little bit of a bonus tip about commissioning. So this is something that I thought about and I haven't commissioned yet because of this. So at one point I thought about commissioning. Initially I wanted to become an officer, but I didn't want to be a nurse in the military, and that was my problem. But in order to commission, you can't just have any type of bachelor's. I want to become an MSC, which is a Medical Service Corps officer, but that would have to require me to go back to school and complete a different degree, and I didn't want to do that. So I wasn't interested in doing that on top of already having a BSN. So I stayed enlisted. So if you are thinking about commissioning, my best suggestion to you is think about the bigger picture and what you would be willing to do in the military. Because there's different types of officers and different roles that you can apply for based on your degree. So MSCs require a degree in healthcare administration or related fields, not nursing. So if you guys want to start a video on that, on how commissioning versus staying enlisted, let me know. Because I didn't know. I did. Somebody should have told me. But, I want to be a nurse on the outside, just not the military. It just wasn't worth it to go through school again and the headache and debt and all the things. So in my personal opinion, I think medical logistics is a great career field if you like organization, details, and problem solving, etc. Like, you're not always in the spotlight, but your work keeps everything else running. And if you're not detail oriented, or if you struggle to work independently, you might find this AFSC a little bit difficult, especially because on deployments, often you're the only person in your specialty. So that could be a lot of pressure on you. But if you don't mind that, then I think this career field would be good for you. I think one big plus in this career is the crossover. So a lot of the skills that you learn, such as like inventory management, supply chain systems, medical acquisitions, they can all translate into a civilian supply chain job, both inside and outside of healthcare. So that makes it a strong choice if you're thinking ahead of life, like life after the Air Force, or if you're in the reserve, how both of your jobs can coexist together. Like, I have plenty of sergeants and friends that do medical logistics inside of the military and also outside the Air Force. So they're very knowledgeable, very skillful. If you want like a GS position, GS1, GS5 position in civilian life, like a federal job, then this will be a smooth transition for you, buddy. So that's pretty much my experience with choosing 401 medical logistics, what the job looks like day to day, and how it plays like out in the reserve versus active duty aspect. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of whether this AFSC might be a good fit for you. If not, hopefully looking into more options. Don't do security forces. If you had to choose anything else, don't do that. If you find this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more efforts content, and drop a comment letting me know if you want a separate video on commissioning versus staying enlisted. Also, other videos, I don't really know what other video I would do after that based on the Air Force. Maybe why I chose the Air Force versus all the other branches. It's a no-brainer. It's the better branch. There's no other branch. I don't care what they say about us. But if you haven't gone to see my other videos, I'll have them. I put like a card maybe up here, and then I also have an end screen with all of my videos from 2025. Me and Maya need to do a video really soon. I know that we want to interview our grandma before, like, I think it's like very cool to have like interview with your grandparents and like their childhood, and it helps you like get to know them on a deeper level. So I do want to do a video with Maya interviewing our grandma soon. If you haven't wanted to go see my videos of me getting married, I can't believe I'm married. I will do another card maybe here. What else am I forgetting? I think that's it. Thank you for 1,000 subscribers. I don't really do these videos for subscribers. I really do it just, I like editing videos, I like filming videos, I like talking about like my experiences and stuff like that. So if you want to stay and watch the journey, I'm happy to have you. But if you don't, then that's fine. See you later. Thanks. Bye. Embarrassing. But yeah, I think I'm going to head out now. Blow me up.
Been gone for a year, only know like once. Life move fast and you do what you want. I guess I'm doing what I want.
3, go.
Just enjoying it.
Alright, but pay attention to the racks. It'll stall out on you when you get up too high. There you go. See? So that's as high as you can go per our racks. You're able to go higher for that whole system, but we don't need it to go that high. So also, don't try to drive when you're way up there like that for a long distance, because when you stop, the whole thing will start to rock.
Just do it a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go down.
Also, this reminds me of the roller coaster with the space and like twists you.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.